Alrighty, 2017 Volkswagen Amarok that's thrown a intake manifold bank open or closed. I think it's a P2004 code. Today we're going to remove all of this to get to this valve just in here. First thing to come off this intake hose here, flathead screwdriver just for that bolt just there. Just tuck up underneath here for now. Next we're going to disconnect this connection down here. We're also going to remove or lift that up off this little hook here. We're going to also disconnect this one here and remove this one from its little hook. With all of the connectors off at the moment except for the one under here, we're now just going to undo this bolt here. Next up we're going to remove this manifold or this intake, the little butterfly valve, 1, 2 and 3 bolts, one underneath. You find that most of these are pretty good. You can just crack the nut or whatever, and most of them will just be able to be undone finger tight. Important with this one here, it's got a connector underneath. Remove that, put off to the side. Important thing to note, give these a good clean out. However, don't go moving the flap with your finger because there's plastic gears that are just in here and you'll absolutely shred them. So be careful, just check if there's a little bit of play, give it a clean out. But yeah, definitely don't go trying to actuate the valve, you'll absolutely fry it. Next part is removing the 4 bolts from here. There's 2 at the top, 1 down here, 1 on the other side. For the 2 at the bottom, I had to go from this side with a socket and an extension just so I could reach it. But we're only going to loosen them because underneath here we've got to get the 2 bolts out from the EGR that goes into the... Now that the screws here are just loosened off and you can move them with your fingers, we're going to carefully get a socket down under here. There's two nuts there's 2 bolts that go in that connect the EGR into this intake pipe just here, and we're going to just carefully go ahead and take them off now. So for the last little bolt that's just under here, I had to get one of these little Torx Allen key type setups to get up underneath there because the socket wasn't able to get me under there. Just be very careful. There's a couple of coolant lines that go into the engine underneath the EGR. I've snapped one of those, so that's obviously going to delay the process for me. But other than that, once the EGR bolts are out, we can continue to undo the bolts from here. Those bolts are now out, so this part here gets picked up and move it over the top of the EGR, which is this part just here. That's where your exhaust gas gets recirculated into the intake, which is just there. This part here, this is the known issue, being that the valve is to be reported in the hold open or the closed position. Pardon me. Like I said, don't press on these valves because the plastic gears in there absolutely frag out, but this is a good indication of what it sounds like when they're actually absolutely fucked. You can hear that they're crunching away and they don't actually operate properly.
Dad, dinner's ready.
Thanks, Bubby. Okay, once you're ready, get your new unit, which for me comes on Monday at the cost of $950. Thank you very much, Volkswagen. All it is the reverse. Make sure that these go on first. Loosen them up nice and, tighten them up so they're still a little bit loose. Do the bolts up on your EGR. Then you're going to put on the last butterfly manifold into your intake, and make sure that you reconnect all of your hoses all of your electronic clips along the way. While we've got all of the parts apart at the moment, the intake needs to be cleaned out of all carbon. This area down here, that's your EGR valve just in there. There's your little temperature sensor for that. You can clean all of that area out, and all of your intake pipes that sit between here and your intercooler inlet. So hopefully that helps with a few bits of efficiency. Here's the devastation from today. Your first inlet butterfly valve, which you need to give a good clean out. Here's your inlet pipe that goes between the two valves. That's where the EGR goes into your air intake. This here is your EGR pipe, so exhaust gas recirculation system. Volkswagen's way of doing shit with emissions. Then goes into your final butterfly valve before going into the intake manifold. All of these things can be cleaned out. Just use some carby cleaner, and that usually gives it a good tidy up. That and some petrol, but whatever you choose. Alright, so my car's a 2017 Volkswagen Amarok V6, obviously. It's second hand, and one of the things that I refuse to do is buy a brand new car, but days like today make me fucking absolutely fume at the stupid shit that people do. So while I broke this part off from this area just down here, if you can see that, that's where it came from. It looks like the previous owner has also broken a part off and done a dodgy job of just that there. So now this part here needs to be completely removed. This hose just here, sorry, this one just here needs to be replaced as well because it connects that to that. This part here connects to the radiator or the coolant return. However, there's another one of these on the opposite side just behind the oil filter. So now I have to dig out that one there to pull it out, to replace that whole area just in there. And if you thought that the $950 for the butterfly valve was bad, I've now got to pay $250 for two of these dicky little things with some plastic pipe in between. But anyway, that'll do you guys for today.